Okay, so I've tried to make this video multiple times and I'm finding it very difficult to find the words to express exactly what I want to say. And it keeps just being longer than it needs to be, and I don't want it to be super choppy and cutting out bits and pieces. So I am going to leave a link down below to Casey Neistat's video because I feel like he said what I want to say in a very clear and articulate way. And I have also posted a link to that video on all of my other social medias. I am not okay with the racism that exists in the world. It's not just in the United States, it's in the world. And the things that are happening right now, the protests, they need to happen because without the protests, the stories are just going to be something that we heard on the news last week. And I'm really afraid that after the protests, that people are going to shut off their TV and close their doors and go to bed and wake up the next day and life is going to continue as it has been. And we need to stop the racism in our country and in the world. We need to start acting as a human race rather than the races within the human race. And there are stories that are front and center right now in the news. There are people who are asking for justice for specific situations. And I am by no means a social justice warrior. I think that there are cases where people take it too far and they minimize what is really the core issue by making everything an issue. And that's not what this is right now. Right now, what is happening is that there needs to be a change in the way that things happen. We need to stop looking at people for their skin color and start having more compassion and understanding. And there are people who may not be able to do that themselves. They may not be able to fully turn that off within themselves. Try. Teach your children to do better. If you have racist thoughts, that doesn't mean that there is something about you that is inherently bad. It means that you need to recognize that you've had those racist thoughts and not speak them or bring them to action and fight against them and not be racist. It's something that sounds so simple. Just don't be racist. And I know that it's not for a lot of people because a lot of people don't realize that they're racist. A lot of people believe that unless they run around saying the N-word and actively acting out against people of a different race, that they aren't racist. There are lots of ways to be racist. And that is what the current movement is about. And I just wanted to make a video to say that I stand with the people of color in not only my country, but in the world. And that I believe that change can happen. It's going to be difficult and it's not going to happen overnight, but it can happen. The only way it can happen is if we continue to move forward and we don't go to bed and wake up the next day and forget that this happened. We can't forget about the fact that there are Black people dying at the hands of white people every day, and that many of those situations are at the hands of white cops. If you are a police officer and you're afraid all the time, you probably shouldn't be a police officer. If you're a police officer that isn't able to put the safety of others, regardless of the situation, above everything else, including your own life, then it's just not the career for you. It's a job that I think too many people get into because they see it as a way to have power. If you want to have power, become the CEO of a corporation. There's plenty of power there. But don't go into any job where you have a gun in your hand or where you have the ability to incapacitate somebody in a public situation and take their life. Don't put on a uniform if you're not able to take the responsibility that comes with that uniform. There was a video that I watched recently, and it's a woman who was in Central Park in New York, and she was out, I want to say walking her dog, but she wasn't walking her dog. She had her dog in Central Park, and it was in a part of the park that is a bird sanctuary, and there was a black man who was just a man who also happened to be black, who told her that where she was at, she needed to have her dog on a leash. And she said she didn't want to put her dog on a leash, that her dog needed exercise because because the dog run was closed down. And he told her that she needed to have her dog on a leash. And she called 911. In the video, which if I can find the video, I'll link it down below. The abuse that this woman had towards her dog was disturbing. She was pulling and yanking and holding him by his collar with his front legs up off of the ground in a way that would eventually choke the dog. Just watching this video of this woman who calls 911 and tells them that she is being threatened by a black man. It's on video. He was the one recording. He's not raising his voice. He's not saying anything threatening. He's not close enough to her that I would personally feel threatened. And she has a dog with her, which, I mean, she's yelling at this man. She's not trying to get away. And clearly her intent was to have him arrested for being black in public. It's not illegal to be black in public. It's not illegal to be black anywhere. It is a situation where if anybody was doing something that was completely unbelievable, it was her. And those are the kinds of things that happen every single day. Every day. All over. If I was in his situation, I would have done the same thing. I would have said, hey, you're in a bird sanctuary. How about you put your dog on a leash? And she probably wouldn't have called the cops on me. She probably would have had some choice words for me because she seemed like a real special lady. But she wouldn't have tried to have me arrested because I'm a white lady. Think about those things when you think that there's if you start to think that there's not an issue. Think about those things if you start to wonder why there are protests and why people are risking being out knowing that there is a global pandemic. And if you're going to go to these protests, please wear a mask. Protect the other people around you as much as you can. If you go to protests and you have extra masks, hand them out to people that don't have them. The protests need to happen. The people who are looting, they're not the protesters. They're not the people who are out there trying to make change. They're the people who are looking for opportunity out of somebody else's injustice. So just keep that in mind. I hope that wherever you are, that you are staying safe and that you are taking care of yourself and that you are educating yourself and that you are not just burying your head in the sand and pretending that none of this is happening or that none of it affects you. Normally, this is where I would say that I hope that you are having a lovely morning, afternoon, or evening, but really, I just hope that you are having a safe morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever